everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
Melissa, you sent me this list of reflection questions for the end of the year.
Happy New Year.
Which I think is appropriate. Although, I mean, what do we got? A couple more hours left. I could get some stuff done still.
I know. That's true. That's
Not
right.
over yet. Not over the last second.
This entire list could be completely different in 2 hours.
Well,
oh my gosh.
Everyone knows how we love a list.
I know it. A good
And
top 5.
This sounded like a pretty good idea when you're like, I'll just come up with a little list of reflections. And then,
I know.
Then I actually started reading them. I was like, whoa, this is really hard.
Oh, I know. I was all feeling full of myself like, oh, this is a great way for us to close out the year. And then I did the same thing. I started looking at them like as personal responses, and I was like, I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah, your
But
little list here isn't like as I was reading it, I was like, I thought it was going to be a list of like real easy softball questions, but no, these are like deep end questions.
Right. But when you look at them on paper, you don't think so. Well, let's just see how we do. I'm anxious to hear how you did, and I'll share. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, the first thing though, before we dive into this, was I was realizing that when I get to the end of the year, it's kind of hard for me to remember the beginning of the year.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
having a hard time with October.
Yeah, at first I was just coming up with things that happened like in the past couple of weeks. And I was like, wait a second, I need to. And then what I actually had to do in order to spur my memory is I had to go on my phone to my photos album and scroll back to January to actually kind of remember and get back in like the mode of what was it like in January or February.
Why didn't you text me that and tell me to do that?
Oh, pro tip. What a partner, just leaving you hang out there with your no help.
You're on your own.
Not even throwing a floaty in for you on the deep end. Yeah, that's what I had to do because I seriously could not recall the whole year. And so that was helpful. So as we go through this, listeners might just start scrolling in their phone.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea. And I too, in this moment, am doing that. I'm scrolling at my phone.
The other reflection tip that I have is the other way I remember stuff is I'll go in my Google Calendar.
Yeah, that's what I did.
And I'll just like go through my calendar, like, oh, what work things was I doing at those times, or what was I like on our home calendar during that time, so I can kind of remember what happened for the year.
That's a really good idea too, or your checkbook. Your calendar or your checkbook will tell you how you've been spending your time. Mm-hmm. I love it.
All right. Are you ready to jump in since you're not prepared?
Yeah, I'm prepared. Okay. No, I'm prepared. I was just like woefully short about how I thought I would be. I thought, oh, this would be like, I can really get into my feelings. And instead I was like, oh my gosh, I can't remember. And I wasn't expecting that.
Turned into the feeling of panic.
Yes. Well, this feels familiar. Okay.
All right. Your list, you want to read them. You get to read them. You get the honor of reading them.
Oh, good. Okay.
For this episode.
Okay. And then we can trade off how we go first. How about that?
Okay.
All right. You can go first on this one.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that backfired on me, didn't it?
Well, we'll see. All right. Question number 1. What did you outgrow this year?
All right. That is an interesting question. And at first I was like, are you talking about my skinny jeans?
That's what I was going to say. All of my professional wardrobe. That's not true for either one of us.
Well, The other thing about these questions, I really struggle just having one answer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because one answer almost leads to this feeling of like that's maybe the only thing rather than the most important thing or the thing that comes to your mind the highest in this moment.
And I think people all the time, like when we talk about, quote, priorities, a lot of times it's a giant list, but it's just like, what's the one? And then you and I actually for a while as a way to unblock projects, what's the one thing that can
exactly what's the one thing we can do such that by doing it everything else becomes easier or unnecessary. That was our question,
which is a great frame. So but I always struggle with what's the one thing, but kind of wrote two, but we'll go with this first one. So one thing that I did outgrow was my try hard shoes at the gym. So what that means is like when I go climbing, I've got like one pair of shoes that feels like slippers and they're super comfy and you can keep them on all day. I got one pair that is like a medieval torture device.
Why though?
You can't keep them on for more than like 15 minutes. They hurt so bad. They turn your foot into like an eagle's talon.
Oh my gosh, welcome to the late 1800s with all Chinese women. Of bound feet.
But really the outgrow there is like for that particular activity, I got to a point where I don't need to try to be at like my peak performance all of the time.
Yeah, that's so good.
I'm just like, okay, I'm going to take this activity from like I have to be the best to like just enjoy the movement.
Oh, that's so good. That's so healthy, JJ. Happy New Year. I feel like we should be clinking glasses after every one of these revelations.
And my feet feel so much better.
I've canceled my standing meetings with my podiatrist, no pun intended. Okay, so for me, I outgrew a couple of things. I outgrew my need, and one of these is a little deeper, and one of these is sort of funny. I outgrew my need to have complete perfectionism. And I actually know that I did. This is something I've struggled with my whole life, is this little vein of perfectionism that runs through any of my hobbies or any new skill I'm trying to, trying to master. I always feel like I have to be perfect at it. But, it's been a big joke about sourdough this year.
Yes.
Well, I have outgrown my need to have things be perfect. And the way I know that is that now when a loaf comes out and it's not as tall as I want, or it doesn't have as many holes in the loaf, I don't care. I look at it and I go, that's interesting. I wonder if it's because the air wasn't right, or did I use, or was the water not the right temperature when it started? Like, that's interesting. And I feel, as funny as that sounds using sourdough reference, it actually feels pretty good to know that I don't have to waste all that energy being uptight or upset and being disappointed about what the outcome was when there actually was an outcome versus no outcome.
Here's my real pointed question. Those imperfect loaves, do you give them to other people?
I'll give them to my kids.
Okay. So...
if it's a really good one, I'll be like, who would I think would be like,
yeah, okay.
Wow.
So it's not I'm not calling you out, but it's not 100% gone.
We're not 100% there. No, because now I've started the decorating. Like I was making Christmas trees using scissors on the dough. Okay,
funny.
Yeah, we're getting all in. But I'm starting to have a little more fun with it. Here's the other thing that I've outgrown, which I wasn't even aware that I would or could, or it was a thing. And this is going to sound kind of funny probably. I have outgrown my need to constantly read the same 2 genres of books. So I always will go through periods where I'll read business books. Like I'll just be like, read them, just go through them and just be real interested. And then I'll be like so sick and tired of reading them. And then I will read sort of like a certain kind of book. Like it always had to be one that wasn't violent, wasn't gruesome. I just didn't need a lot of hot romance and that sort of thing. So my genre was pretty narrow, and it made it difficult to find good books to read because I was being so narrow in my focus. Well, I have this book club of women that I absolutely adore, and they're all really bright women, and they've had a book club for over 20 years. And I've been a member of this club now for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever's hosting gets to choose the book. And they're all there's so much variety in how they think and how they live. And so they choose books that I would never, ever, ever pick off of a shelf. And some of them I have gone in kicking and screaming, like, I don't want to read this. This is just, I don't want to read it. But I have learned that I really can enjoy all kinds of different books. And, I'm a voracious reader. So I read, I don't know. A couple months ago, I think I read 15 books in a month. I read a ton.
That's amazing.
So to be that all in with a real narrow focus for so long.
Yeah.
So I feel kind of good about that.
All right. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So there
Cool.
you go. All right. Question number 2. What was your greatest accomplishment this year?
That one was hard to think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was hard to figure out what's the one.
I
for
know.
Me.
Yeah.
But I had trouble because I feel like I had a big accomplishment, although it wasn't just me. And so what I thought about for that was getting Ethan to flight school.
Yes,
this fall or summer fall.
Yeah, I actually was thinking that.
It's kind of like the accomplishment. I was like, what is the accomplishment that he got there? But it's kind of like a culmination of 18 years of parenting.
Yes,
ending in a
launch.
epic road trip out to San Diego and dropping him off. So I was like, that is the accomplishment. Although, to his credit, he did
well
a lot of the preparing himself. When you were talking about maybe lessons learned or outgrowing things or whatever, I was just one of the things I was thinking about was my parenting and my expectation of how the kids act. Kind of one of the things I kind of also outgrew maybe was the expectation that my kids act in a certain way. But then on the flip side, Ethan did an amazing job getting himself prepared for his next phase of life.
Yeah, I was going to say you successfully launched your first child. And that's a very difficult thing to do. And you're right, it is a culmination of a number of things.
Well, he's off the runway.
He's off.
It's a couple feet, but he's getting there.
Again, no pun intended.
This is going to be a pun episode.
Did you ever hear that comedian that talked about the guy landing the flight and he was like, they landed and it was like, we looked out the window and said, that was the shortest runway I've ever seen in my life, but it certainly is wide.
That's funny.
My biggest accomplishment, I think, this year, the one that comes to mind maybe the fastest, is my really fun project I've been working with one of my clients. The program started with 100 people in it, and now there are almost 150 people. And just the coordination, the curriculum building, the delivery, the traveling, the organization of, using different assessment tools and having people be assessed with their peers when they normally aren't, and just all of these things. And I think that the reason I think of it as my greatest accomplishment is not because of that whole pile of stuff that I just listed, although that was all necessary in order for it to work well, was everybody's attitude about it. Everyone has been really enjoying this program and getting a lot out of it, and it's showing up all the way to the board level. Their employee surveys are coming out talking about it and how people are, noticing their own growth. And that is such an amazing feeling to watch people when the whole purpose of this program is to have people professionally and personally develop, and to be able to actually see it with your own eyes, clear as day. It is a huge accomplishment.
What's interesting is both of yours and my biggest accomplishment is helping other people grow.
Oh.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, you're right.
That's fun.
Look at us.
Yes.
We're growing up.
All right, what's next?
Okay.
These are fun.
I know. Biggest lesson you learned this year.
This one was interesting because I feel like I learn, like I'm constantly learning.
Yeah.
And there's lots of lessons that I learned this year.
Yeah.
Some are tactical business lessons, some are little life lessons. But one of the things that I learned, and actually, you know what, we might do a pod on this. So put this one in the notes.
In this one.
So I think we might have talked about like how in one of my businesses, the guy that runs it, his name's Steve, and he's retiring.
Yeah. You talked about that.
Well, I guess technically his last day's today, but like he was kind of done a while ago.
Good for him.
But so he decided he was going to. So he'd been running this business for like a long time, like 10 years or something. Pretty much autonomously, without a lot of my input. I would just kind of do the strategy stuff. For 2 years, I've been, hey, we got to get this business into a different market, expand the market, change the product a bit, change the product portfolio. And that was like my strategy.
Yep.
The strategy was unbundle. It's called unbundling. We got unbundle this product and make smaller products for more specific markets. And well, Steve always agreed that was a good strategy. We never got it done. And then at the beginning of this year, he decided he was going to retire, which is awesome. I mean, he was actually even past retirement age, but he's still doing a great job running that business.
Yeah. Lincoln just blew up with his goodwill wishes, I noticed. That was really cool.
But once he decided he was going to retire and we started the process of kind of transitioning some of his job responsibilities, and we kind of like stopped holding him accountable to the profit and loss statement.
Yeah.
Like the financials of the business. We started like within a couple months, new products are coming out. We're addressing different markets. It's like everything kind of released. And then Steve goes, why didn't we do this like a couple years ago? I was like, dude, this is what I've been trying to get you to do. But I think there's something, so like the lesson I learned there, that's a long story. For the lesson I learned was that I think about like what I'm holding on to, but the lesson was thinking about what other people might be holding on to. And Steve was kind of holding on to our classic business model for good reason, but I was never able to get to the root of why he was doing that because I wasn't super aware that that's maybe what he was doing. So that's the thing I learned is how do you understand someone enough to figure out or work with them to help figure out what they're holding on to.
Right. Well, that is interesting because that actually kind of goes along with my answer too. So biggest lesson that I learned this year, and you're right, there's so many, and this might sound cliche, but it is the absolute antithesis of that. And what I wrote is mental health challenges can be hidden in plain sight. Now, the example you were using wasn't a mental health issue. However, it was a way of thinking that was stuck, and it was making the person a bit stuck, right? And I would say that's something that I continually learn in my practice. And yet the depth of things, so it's kind of like two-part, like these mental health challenges can be hidden right in plain sight, and it affects the person so incredibly, both at work and at home. But at work, if the person is in a higher level of leadership, there's a responsibility for a lot of those people to either come clean, like I should just share that I'm having this, or the old school way is don't say anything and just come at it harder. Be stronger, be harder, be more removed. And there's this really interesting thing happening right now in the world where either the pain is too great for the person or they're simply tired of living with it. And that they are becoming, once you get close to that person, they are willing to share that. And it's so interesting to me that when you see this happening with someone, I mean, in the last month, I've had what I would consider 3 huge breakthrough conversations with 3 different people. And to be witness to that is amazing because the person can maybe have gone through a bunch of therapy for months and years and still struggle. And yet when you come at it in a different perspective, they can like open their hand and let the bird fly. But there just needs to be safety, you know? So it's like as we talk to people and we see people where they are and we come alongside of them and we're willing to be good listeners and good advocates without coming up with all the answers, you know? Don't have to have all the answers, but just be with someone. It can do wonders for their overall health and well-being. And that I continually learn that. And I feel like I could put that as my year-long, every single year, one of the biggest lessons, because it comes out in such unexpected ways and with such unexpected people. You know, it's unbelievable. So that's what I would say. Okay. Number 4. You're going to laugh at this. What was an unexpected obstacle?
I thought that one was funny. To me, I was like, have you ever gone to like, you know, one of those like, I don't know, like trampoline, jungle gym kind of places with your kids, and they've got like the obstacle course and they got like rope things you walk across and whatever. And then they've got that one section where it's like vertical poles everywhere and you have to like run through it and you're kind of like bouncing off all of them trying to get through there.
No, I've never seen that one.
No? Okay.
Sure you went with your kids. You liar.
I better say I went with my kids and not by myself.
Exactly.
Well, so anyway, there's this obstacle course thing where it's like, you know, it's like kind of like there's all these poles in the way and you have to like run through it and you're like bouncing off of them. And, that's kind of like how
squishy bottom? Like, is the floor soft and squishy? Is that why it's hard?
Sometimes, and then the poles are like padded, so they're like easy to bounce off of.
Sure.
But when I think about obstacles, like and life, I kind of think of life like that. It's like you're running through this thing, you're just kind of like bouncing off obstacles.
That's good.
There's like there's a book that I really like called "The Obstacle Is the Way." From Ryan Holiday. It's like one of those books about stoicism.
So I shouldn't read it.
Some ancient philosophy book. But the way I always see obstacles, like there are obstacles, but to me, like those are the things you should try to go towards. Like,
interesting.
They're not like the thing to avoid. They're kind of like the way through life to me. So like bouncing off all of those obstacles is just, I feel like just my normal course. But the unexpected one for me is, you know, I've got a couple of these businesses. One of them, which we're pretty optimistic about in 2024. Had kind of like less revenue, slower sales cycles. It's kind of like everything in that industry softened. Which kind of results in like, it's just they're not making as much money. They decisions are harder. Everything's going slower.
Right.
The things we wanted to accomplish, we couldn't because they just wasn't there. The projects aren't getting done. So it's just that softened market have affected that business, and I definitely didn't expect it because I had pretty high expectations for 2024.
Yeah. I always feel like when you, well, you know, we always say that the higher the expectation, the greater the, you know, the remorse, and it's just
resentment.
Resentment, yeah. But I think that's so easy to have happen. And I think after that happens once, then you pull back and you get a little more cautious the next time. But pretty soon you're just optimistic because that's just what we do.
Yeah.
You know, you just barrel on.
yeah, so kind of my net result of that obstacle
Yeah.
was like, oh wait, it's okay. Like we'll bounce off that one, and
Mm.
and it's going to be better next year.
Right.
And you can already see it.
Yeah, you've already, yes, you have. You did. I know that was a big thing for you this year, and I do think you've done an amazing job of recalibrating.
Yeah, so it kind of turns into an opportunity.
Yeah,
but
and working with your whole team to be the same way, because a lot of times if you don't have that alignment, it can be tough.
But when you smash face first into that obstacle, it's not super great.
The visuals. Good night. All right, this is a very funny one, and I almost just hesitate even saying it because it's accurate, but it makes me still kind of mad. What was an unexpected obstacle for me, and what I would say is my energy level.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. That has been something that has been really tough on me because I have an unbound amount of energy usually. And I try to do too many things in too small of a time and, try to get a workout in and then go and do this and then go and do that and then sit down and write a whole 5-hour session with the client and, and then, just all the stuff. And I have to admit to myself, I'm still not completely there if you can hear my tone of voice, that I do not have the same level of energy that I had when I was 20. Damn it. So I have had to make different decisions more recently, like how I need to get things done, what my calendar looks like. Don't say anything.
When you need to get things done.
Yeah,
right? Timing on your day.
Yep. Yes. And how much I can stick into a day and all of that. And that has been an unexpected obstacle because while everybody else has always talked about that, I've always been like,
doesn't apply to me.
Yes, you're exactly right. Exactly right. So that has been something that I've been noticing. And you know what? I think that I should be so completely, absolutely thrilled with the amount of energy that I do have because I think I still have a lot more energy than the average person. And yet I'm still like, come on. Where's an extra 2 hours today? Just dumb, like dumb stuff. Just dumb.
Well, that's not dumb.
Well,
but it is that thing, right? It's like you have an expectation of yourself, and when you don't meet it, then you kind of get that shame spiral about it.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. All right, last one.
Okay,
ready?
Last one. Yep.
Favorite moment of the year.
This one was so hard.
I know.
Because when I was looking back at my photo library, it was like favorite moment, snapshot of all these awesome things that we did this year.
I know.
So
I'll give you grace, and you can choose more than one thing.
Okay.
If you want.
I'll be fast. There's 3.
Oh, good.
3.
Okay.
First one, we went to spring break. Me and the kids road tripped out to Colorado.
Yeah, that's right.
And the boys were doing their high school spring break with their friends, but we all drove out to get kind of together. But it was just me and Abby.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
There was one evening where we're in the mountains at Keystone Resort, and there was a sled in our condo, or a couple of sleds. We grabbed the sleds, we walked out to the ski hill.
Oh my gosh.
And it was gently snowing, and it was just powdery everywhere, and it was this most beautiful winter wonderland. And we hiked up the hill, and we would sled down in all of this powder, and it was completely magical because it was like a snow globe we were in.
Wow.
So that was awesome.
Oh, that's a beautiful memory.
My second one is my road trip with Ethan out to San Diego. Yeah. There was one point where, we were staying in all sorts of different places and mostly hotels, but one night we stayed at the Alpine Association's Climbers Ranch in the Grand Tetons, which was just like a bunkhouse with bunk beds that were just plywood. Yeah. So it was kind of rough. It was pretty rough in it. But just seeing, they've never really experienced that kind of situation. So just rolling in there to the Climbers Ranch, and it's kind of everybody's out there
cool.
cooking on the picnic tables, and the whole scene was just like, oh, this is awesome. And my last one was actually Steve's retirement party, because I've got this picture of me and him.
I know.
Standing next to each other.
I've
huge
never
smiles
seen
on our face.
bigger smiles in my life.
And I was just so proud to have someone that had been, with me in our business for whatever that was, 18 years.
Yeah, that picture's on LinkedIn.
Retirement. It's awesome.
That picture's on LinkedIn. Yes, somebody posted that picture. It is the cutest picture. Both of you guys do. You look like Happy
fun.
Face Club members.
So those are a couple of my favorite moments.
Oh, those are so awesome. So for me, one is our daughter and her husband bought their first home. And just the sheer magnitude of that accomplishment and their pride and their enthusiasm to make everything just perfect and everything, so that's definitely one of my favorite moments, is them buying that house. Another hugely favorite moment for me is our son got engaged, and we just absolutely love her, and the joy we have to look forward to her being part of our family. And just, he has been so different because he's found her. He's just a different person. It's really cool. And then my third, it's funny because I also had three. My third was fishing. This year I did a lot more fly fishing, and I got to do a lot of it with my son. And I've said before, as a woman, it's more difficult sometimes to have things that you get to do with your male children. It seems much easier with females, but with Mitchell and I, we have so much fun doing that together, and I've learned so much from him. And my favorite moment was on the river. We both caught 2 enormous bass at the same time.
Awesome.
And we have this picture, and he's got his arms wrapped around me, and the 2 fish are in front of us. And we were with his friend Caleb, who I just recently met and just absolutely adore. It was a perfect day, and it was such a fun moment.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good list. So
yeah, that's
a great list. What did you outgrow this year?
Yep.
What was your greatest accomplishment?
Yep.
Biggest lesson you learned? What was an unexpected obstacle?
Yeah.
And then your favorite moment of the year?
Yeah.
What a good list to reflect on. I hope everyone can think about these, because this was a good end of the year exercise.
It really was. And I hope you have an absolutely happy New Year this evening, and we will see you next year.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.